So, I'm gonna go over Doctor Strange, and basically that's it. This is gonna apply only to the MCU version. The science could be wrong, and, yeah, let's look into this. Doctor Strange, first off, is known for using these um, uh, light whips, light shield, like, just a bunch of light-based constructs, and whilst the Ancient One explains this as other dimensions and shaping reality and whatever, these are phenomena that could be applied to the real world. Of course, in Marvel cosmology, it is stated that there are infinite dimensions in the universe. So, yeah, it could mean that, like, in those dimensions that are just being brought into the universe as a whole or something, but I don't know. For you see, light can take on the properties more so of a wave or of matter when it bounces off it enough. And as we all know, in quantum theory and mechanics, light is both a particle and a wave. Einstein said such, and it is shown as such because it acts as a both on different occasions, and since it was acting like both, Einstein said, let's say it's both. And, yeah. Of course, someone later down in the future is probably going to prove that light is its own special type of wave particle combination or something completely different, but that's beyond us. So, like, when a light bounces off, um, particles, and after bouncing off enough, it could take on that mass or like the properties of those particles, like of the electrons, and even MIT backs this up in one of their experiments, as you can see here. I'll just stop talking so you can read it. Believe it or not, I'm going to actually show my sources in this because, well, there are a lot of skeptic people. Yeah. Basically, as I was saying before, as it says here, those that the bound photons actually acquired a fraction of an electron's mass, which is crazy. And if we and these photon molecules, as it's put, could definitely explain how Strange is using those light whips and attacks and all of that. But here we get into the real question. How does Strange and Caecilius and Dormammu's light-based attacks affect people? Well, you don't even need something like photon molecules or need to know about that in order to understand it, because of an effect called photophoresis. I'd like to add that all of this, just now, I pulled it up because, well, I'm not exactly an expert in this sort of stuff, but I know about it, and I wanted to double check into sources and all of that, and so, yeah. Photophoresis basically says that light bouncing off the particles means that the electrons are going to start orbiting faster, and so the particles are going to move in the opposite direction that the light is bouncing off them. We also know in several experiments that light can in fact move objects, whilst light, and even if, and just by, what light is defined as, we already knew this beforehand, because light, whilst it is massless, it has energy and momentum. And let me go to the photophoresis. And it is even hypothesized and tested that light-based vehicles, like light sails, are used to fly. Of course, in the future, humans aren't capable or intelligent or united enough to do this now, but it is possible. And in Star Wars, the Clone Wars movie, Count Dooku has a solar sail. Of course, it's vastly inaccurate and would need to be the size of like nearly our moon in order to move something that big, but that's a different story. So yeah, I'll link those sources in the descriptions or the pinned comments. Yeah, and let's see. Something else I'd like to explain is, Doctor Strange's ability to travel throughout the multiverse. And how Ancient One threw him through the multiverse. Well, you see, there's something called string theory. String theory basically says that there are these different strings, the smallest, most fundamental parts of existence, way smaller than atoms, that are vibrating. And they form the universe and electrons and everything. And different strings vibrating at different frequencies mean they're different dimensions, create results in different dimensions and universes. I'm not even really gonna pull up string theory because, first off, it's theoretical where the rest of that stuff isn't, and second off, string theory is way beyond my understanding, but people like Imaginary Access do go over it. The Flash is heavily based on it and how he vibrates to go into a different dimension, universe, Earth, whatever it's called. And so, yeah. And it's also possible, assuming we use string theory, to say that all this other dimensional stuff and travel and the whatnot is due to string. Them being able to manipulate strings via their souls or life forces or whatever. And manipulating strings could manipulate how light itself works. So light would no longer act like a wave so much as a particle. One could manipulate strings like that to do something like that if they had control over it. I'd like to add that Marvel in general is trying to make magic more scientific. Spoiler alert for the Spider-Man No Way Home, 10-second alert, skip to 9:40 if you want to avoid that. So, basically in Spider-Man No Way Home, he was saying how Strange sent him to the mirror dimension, and how it's actually in a certain pattern. I can't for the life of me remember the name of that pattern, but it was Arca something. It's on the tip of my tongue, but Suffice to say, it was a pattern in which the trains and everything was spinning around in, very similar to a fractal, if you will. And so, yeah, there is magic is more science-like in the Marvel universe, so that's a thing. And I could see someone like Ant-Man possibly shrinking so far down that he ends up messing with the strings of the universe, which ends up disrupting magic or something. But that's just another theory of how Marvel could even more intertwine their universe with itself. Be aware that the Marvel Cinematic Universe / Multiverse is its own multiverse, and the Marvel's comics is its own multiverse, and the animated shows are their own multiverse. So it works differently in those shows and series and books and whatnot, and that this is only applying to Doctor Strange. I might make a part 2 of this if it does well, and have a nice one.